Good morning. We are going to be learning a very interesting Rambam because it sounds like it's not into the usual lumdus of Rambam, but I believe there's a lot here. So the Rambam towards the end of Hilchos Sanhedrin, Perek Chafei, we're going to do a few halachos because they're all related to each other. The Rambam starts halacha aleph. Asel Odom Linig B'Srara Alatzim. You're not allowed to be a boss. Make yourself a leader, not a leader, but a controller of the people. Ubegas Zaruach. You're not allowed to be haughty when you're when you're a leader in the community. Elaba Nova V'Yira, with humility and trepidation. Now, remember, this is Hilchos Sanhedrin. V'chol parnes. Anybody who is involved in communal affairs, who is providing services or providing leadership in a community, he puts on an overburdening fear, is nan. She gets punished. I mean, really, really scary. Now, this Gemara is in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. We learn out from a pasuk, which the Gemara misquotes the pasuk. I think I can't find that pasuk. I find similar words in the pasuk. In Yecheskel, does that parnas hamatel emi yisrael atzib b'shalei l'shem shemayim, and then it goes on with this whole thing. Okay, as of now, we do not have any reason why this halacha is brought here in Hilchos Sanhedrin. We're talking about a parnas called Odom. Doesn't say anything about Sanhedrin. Then he goes on other things. You shouldn't treat them, frivolously because they're not learned, and don't step over them even though they're simple people. Why? Because B'nai Avraham Yitzchak, the Tzivis Hashem Sheitz Meretz Hashem B'kei Gadol Yel Chazak. That was beautiful words. It's not fitting for his writings, but now not done yet. V'seivel Teirech Hatzibur Masam K'Moshe Rabbeinu. You gotta carry them like Moshe. Not done yet. Moshe Rabbeinu complained to the Eibishter, why do you make me carry them like one who is nursing them? But this is we gotta learn. That's what you gotta do. Now you're not done. I commanded your judges. Now finally we come up to judges. You gotta carry the tzibur like carrying them like a mother nursing a woman nursing a child. And now he goes for it. Say all about, go learn. By the way, that's a rare word that the Rambam uses in describing Moshe. He does use it a couple of times, but Moshe, the leader of the Nevi'im, the head of all the Nevi'im, when Moshe sent them to Egypt, we learned from the tradition, and he told Moshe and Aaron, suddenly Aaron comes in here, even if they curse you and they throw stones at you. An elaborate description for some reason here, out of all places, the Rambam decides to get very heavily involved in describing it. And then Halacha Gimel, not done. Now back to Dayan. We're back to Hilchos Sanhedrin. Got to honor the Dayan. And then added, don't act cheap. Don't make yourself cheap in the eyes of the people. It's as hard to the dying. Now, we'll talk about all the diukim that there are. I have 20 some odd diukim on these Rambam. And finally, halacha daled. Once you become parnas, back to parnas latzibur, you can't do certain things in front of people that make you look cheap. Don't work. You know, I work. You got to be above it. Definitely not to drink, not to get drunk in front of them, and don't drink amongst, the people. You got to stay above. And then he ends up, Oy lahem loisna dayonim, back to dayonim. The embarrassment of Teres Moshe, again, Moshe. Shebazu dinel v'shpilu ad eretz v'giu ad offer v'garbu v'ol. Terrible, terrible. The source of this, Sanhedrin Daf Ches, and the other Gemara is a little different than the way the Rambam says it. First of all, he says, "Vatzav shevteichem beisahi, v'ksiv asabe eschem beisahi." So Rabbi Lazar goes reverse. As hor l'tzibur, that they should be afraid of the dying. As hor l'dayin, you should tolerate the tzibur. Ad kamo, what's the degree? How much do you have to tolerate them? Kasha yisa einim azayim. Doesn't bring the whole story with when they went to Mitzrayim, what Moshe and Aaron and all that. Nothing. The Tur brings literally Lashon Rambam. Matter of fact, the Mefarshim say, the priest says that's based on the Rambam. The Tur just starts off right away. The Dain, let's not B'Shara, the Gasaruch, on Sevel, Ba'Nova V'Yira, the Chol Parnes, then goes on to Parnes. Okay, so I want to set up the problems. And there are many, 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 many. And again, when I say problems, I always want to be for transparency. A problem is not one that you can't live without it. You can't live with it. A problem is just, it's obvious that it seems, not obvious, seems that the Rambam is trying to tell us something. First of all, no mention of a dying. So what's it doing here? Really, where does this belong? In Hilchos Deis. And there he does mention it. But he doesn't get into it. Perek Beis Halacha Gimel, I'm writing in Hilchos Deis. He wants to put on extra fear. He has to not get angry, show anger. He has to remain calm, show anger. So there, logically, that's where you should talk about this. What's he waiting till the end of Hilchos Sanhedrin? When it doesn't really talk about dying until later. The Tur, as we said, starts off with about dying. And the preacher says, this is all Rambam, but it's not Rambam. So here, at least he can explain. He started off with a dying, so he mentions Arnis. But the Rambam doesn't even mention dying first. The only Arnis later he brings in time. Okay. Number 5. He says, the Seivel Teirach HaTzibur Masan K'Moshe Rabbeinu. Suddenly dying comes in here. As all the dying, he's bringing dying the right to Parnas. Where does the dying come into a Parnas? And what's the proof from a dying to a Parnas? We brought the source in Sanhedrin. Now again, there, Moshe is complaining to the Eibishter. How do you learn from that? Moshe is saying, how do you want me to be like that? And then we say, no, that's the way you have to be. Second, this is Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of Klal Yisrael. Where do you get this to Dayanis, the Parnas? Tells you, say you'll mad Moshe Rabbeinu Shal Yisrael. Shal Kol Hanaviyim. All this is not the Gemara, as we said, which is the say the source of this halach. And all this is Moshe again, not Dayan. This is Moshe's greatness. Moshe, the leader of Klal Yisrael. You want to teach this about a Rebbe, about a Nasi. But where does this come to Dayanim? Again, we're talking about Moshe. So why does he repeat Moshe Rabbeinu again? Just say, and say Ilmad Mimenu. And why Rabbi shall call him Nevi'im? All right. Then this whole new part of he went to Mitzrayim. He told them why. And what does he bring Aaron in here? Now, Kederech, Shenitztava Adayin, Kach Nitztava Tzibur. What's this Kederech? What does one do with the other? Two separate things. And in the Gemara, it first mentions the Tzibur, then the Dayin. And then we said, starts off with Kovid. But where does he learn it from? See, make up your mind. Kovid, Ema, is it the same thing, maybe? Now, the Tur writes a separate halacha or a separate point. Don't act frivolously in front of them. And the Rambam puts it together with the word of Shatiya Emes Adayin Aleim. The Rambam doesn't put the word vegan, just continuation. Again, in the end, back and forth, dying, parnas, dying. Who are you talking about here? And then, as we said, why does he mention Elben Teiras Meisha? Not just Teira. We know Teira. Teira is Teiras Meisha. I mean, we don't have to learn it. Okay, so short point to the answer. We spoke about it recently, and I want to bring it over again, that Bezdin, the whole idea of a dayin comes with the Kayach of Moshe. And we brought Moshe. Moshe is a central figure in Bezdin. In the Shilas Yeshuvas Tzitz Eliezer, he also talks about this mixing up dayin and parnas. I found that he asks a lot of the Aharis that we did, Baruch Hashem, and he says from all of this comes out clearly that the Rambam refers to Mamuna ala Tzibur, some who's in charge of the Tzibur, sometimes in the name of parnas, sometimes of dayin. And he mentions the Yerushalmi. I don't know if he mentions it or I don't remember. The Perek Test, Saita, Lachiyud, it says there, Elu Moshe Parnosais. And that means talking about a parnas. And the Karmeda says Zugais. Elu Haya Avad and Nesim. They were the Babez and Nesim. Okay, so it's obvious that Parnas and Dayan is somebody who teaches what he said. And this is all part of what the Sicilian says, that he teaches Torah l'Ram, umanhigom b'darkei Torah, and he directs them, and he brings a Gemara. Gemara in the Shabbos says, "Am Rabbi Yechanan Ezu Talmud Chochem sheman noisei Parnas l'Tzibur." Who is a Talmud Chochem that becomes a Parnas? Zeh sheshelos d'var lochem b'chol mokim. V'loim afilu v'sech t'kal. And the Gemara goes on, they're different levels. So the Parnas is not just an officer. Obviously, talking about Talmud Chochem, that must be a dayan. So from all of this, he says that Barnus is one who is, the real word of Barnus is not somebody who provides, someone who teaches and directs people. And he has to be, and he is also a dayan. The Mashah, when he writes At Kama, the Gemara asks At Kama Kashish and Eimet as a Yenik, he writes the Chaim Matzinu b'Moshe. Now he says Saymar Elai so Eyu b'Chaykach Kashish Eimet. He's going to, coming from there, he's going to be Memane 70 Dayanim. Obviously, he's not coming to take away from them. Okay. It's a discussion on its own. But let's get to the bottom line. Let's go to where we started off. A dayan comes b'koichesh Moshe. Every dayan stands in Moshe's shlichus and Moshe's appointment, as we said in the past. So therefore, he has Moshe's qualities in him, not only as a pesik, but also as a leader in the community. So a dayan be'etzem is a parnas hatzina. A little different than the Tzitz Eliezer, but the idea is in the same league. That is why here, when he's talking about a dayan, he stresses the inyan not of the dayan chelik, but what comes out of a dayan, which is a parnas chelik. And that's why he mentions Kashi Yisayim on the Yenik, as the Mashah says. He's going to appoint Shaftim. Obviously, he's not taking away from them. And these are the people that were involved with Moshe in running Klal Yisrael. So that's part of the Dayanim. Why does he say Moshe and Aaron? So Rashi in Parshas in Balaisra, and the pasuk is saying, "Merlai say b'chaykecha gashis naim and say, they keep ask, beheichin amalekei." Where did he tell him that? The answer is he told him then, "Leich nechayis am, vayitzaven al bnei Yisrael." Amnashi is saying, so that's where there was a command. So this is the pasuk that tells you this halacha. Now, you still have to understand, why does Rambam need this? And the answer is because he's coming to teach you that we're talking about two aspects of a dayan. The dayan aspect and the parnas aspect of the dayan. And perhaps that's why he writes, Rabban shall call on the Vim over here. And also, what does he bring on? He wants to say that this is not something that's specific for Moshe, but because he's Rabban Shal Neviim, it is also relevant to everyone. All those who come from him. And that's why he brings Aaron. That this is also relevant to Aaron who comes along with him. Okay. So therefore, since a dayan includes in him the role of a parnas, therefore all conduct that we're talking about, Sai as a dayan, Sai as parnas, has to be banov v'yira v'seibel terech hatzibur masayim, and ubena and anhogas hatzibur be'emes adayin is all part of the dayan's responsibility. That's what writes Kederech. It's in order for him to be able to carry out his responsibility. It's not just they should respect him. They should respect him that in order for him to be able to do what he has to do. Now, the Gemara brings the psukim as it says in the Torah, and then Matzav Eschem. However, when it translates, it goes first to the tzibur and then to the dayan. And the answer is that the tzibur, the dayan, the tzibur is only sort of the dayan should be able to carry out his role. And therefore, is part of his way to affect the tzibur, so they should have the respect for him. And perhaps when he writes Posach B'Kavod, the sign that he starts off B'Kavod and he ends up with Ema, is because he doesn't want it to be Yiras HaKavod. He means Yira of. He doesn't want the Ema to be Yira. He wants it to be Yiras HaKavod. And that's the Hanhog of the Dayan, and that also includes a Parnas. And that's perhaps why he finishes up. Because it's all about Moshe, because it comes from Koichish from Moshe. There's a concern in the Koichish from Moshe if you don't do it. And that's why he writes Teres Moshe. Okay, everything I think fits nicely. It's the concept. Obviously, the idea is already in the Tzitz Eliezer, but the way we presented it, and now it fits into the words of the Rambam very well. And seid gesund und stark.